September the 13th, 2019. Because you're looking at satellite images, and you're looking at potential tropical cyclone number 9 is what they're calling them now. The center is located just about in that area right there. This thing hasn't moved much, drifting north and northwest, but it's been in almost the same location for about 2 or 3 days now. Just got here and kind of stopped. We saw Dorian do the same thing as it's dealing with high pressure above it. You know, the models have changed. Just want to point out, in the Gulf of Mexico itself, this low pressure system that we have been seeing is starting to wrap itself with some clouds. They're not talking about it, but just a point of interest as it's heading west towards Texas. Now, here's what we got. Potential tropical cyclone 9. I don't know why they started naming them that. Anyway, sustained winds at 30 miles an hour, central pressure 1,009 millibars. It's moving west, northwest at 6 miles an hour. The system we've been watching has went from a 40% chance to a 50% chance as it moves off the African coast. And this is a 5-day forecast, it says, and conditions are expected to become more favorable in the next few days. You got a new one popped off of Africa. We were seeing that on radar yesterday. 20% chance of development over the next 5 days also. We'll keep an eye on those. The one in the center may also get caught up and turn to the north, but we'll keep an eye on it. Here's what we got. Sometimes tonight, 2 a.m. after midnight, this will become a tropical storm, probably Humberto. And you can see the blue lines and the yellow lines. Yellow lines are tropical storm watches. The blue areas are tropical storm warnings. Now, that's the same area that Dorian devastated. You got Elbow Cay out there and the marsh. All of that area was hit. I think they've tried to evacuate some people. I don't know the full updates on it, but it was pretty much devastated. So they're going to have to be prepared for at least a tropical storm. The only thing that I disagree with on that, guys, is that warm Gulf Stream that it's going to cross. So watch for a Cat 1 before it gets into shore. Just keep your heads up on that. Look at the tracking. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 models that have it offshore Jacksonville. Now, one of those, the Canadian model, comes ashore in Miami, the light green one, and then comes back out up around the Daytona area. But here, again, everything's being controlled by the high pressure system above this. Look at the European model here. It's showing pretty much the same path as a lot of the models that we were looking at on the spaghetti lines. But guys, notice here it comes up the East Coast, bumps into Florida, and pulls back out. And looking at the Canadian model, it's very similar. Also, the storm that's approaching the Caribbean now has that same turn that the last two systems that we've seen. Notice also you still got low pressure coming off the coast of Africa, and there's a system in this model that's forming in the Caribbean itself. We'll keep an eye on that. Let's look at the Navy model. These are pretty much the three most reliable of the models. The Canadian model seems to get it right more than the rest of them, but here the Navy model shows it very close to shore, very similar track to Dorian. Now, it doesn't show it sitting over the Bahamas, but right now it technically has been, but on the southeastern section of the Bahama Islands, but not as a Cat 5 185 mile an hour storm, thank goodness. But guys, this is what we're watching. Again, Africa is in a rapid fire mode, throwing these storms out into the Atlantic. So just depending on where these orange areas, guys, are at the time, will control if they move, continue to move west, or to make that turn to the north and go into the cooler waters of the North Atlantic. But we're watching it, guys. You watch it. Again, my only difference in this forecast is I think that we're going to be looking at a Category 1 along the Florida Central Coast. So you guys in my second home state, keep your heads up. Be safe.